Let's do it. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of these travel vlogs that I have been doing recently. This is a more informal video where I talk about different trips and travels that I've done in a very easy to understand way. This way you can learn about the world and also learn English at the same time. Today I'm going to tell you about more of my trip in Kyrgyzstan. Last time I told you a little bit about the southern parts of Kyrgyzstan in Osh and Peak Lenin, but today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the rest of my trip. Well, we left off, or stopped, in Bishkek. I was telling you how I found this city to be very hip and energetic, and it was an interesting city to be in. But after Bishkek, we went into the central parts of Kyrgyzstan through Naryn and to a place called Tash Rabat. Now this is more or less a small place in the mountains. There is a caravanserai there, which is like a hotel or a place to stop on the Silk Road. The Silk Road, of course, is a famous road or connection of merchants, people selling things throughout history. Of course, nowadays this place does not work. It's just an old broken building that's falling apart, but it's an interesting historical artifact. And the surrounding mountains and area are very, very beautiful, so it was worth going to see. We slept in a yurt for the night, and it was an interesting experience. There was a furnace in there to keep us warm, and when it was burning at the beginning of the night, it was okay. But we woke up in the middle of the night and it was so hot, like a sauna. So we had to put out the fire and air out our ute so that we could go back to sleep. We also went horseback riding, or horse riding. I have done this only once before in my life, and I had a bad experience. So I was a little bit nervous to do it again. But I tried it and it was wonderful. It was great to go throughout the mountains and to explore places that I wouldn't have been able to get to in a short amount of time on my feet or by foot. We ended up going up and over a mountain pass, and we looked down and we could see a huge lake, and we could see the border with China, so we could wave to China from far away. At the beginning, we were only going at a snail's pace because I was not so confident on the horse. But by the end, I had more confidence, and so we were able to even gallop, as we say, or ride the horse in a very fast way. But after our time in Tash Rabat, we went back towards Isykul, which is a big, big lake in the mountains. It's probably one of the most famous tourist spots in all of Kyrgyzstan. Even the locals will go there to rest. On our way there, we were hitchhiking, and one of the locals let us try a local drink. It is a type of horse milk that is fermented. At first, it doesn't sound very good, but when we tried it, it was actually quite good. When we finally got to the big lake, we stopped and wanted to make our camp, that is to put our tents there and get ready for the night. But we had a problem. We didn't have any water. We thought that the lake would have water for us, but the lake was a little bit salty, so we couldn't drink it. So we had a big problem. Luckily, there was a local family who allowed us to use some of their water. They were traveling by car, so it was easy for them to go get more water. And it was very kind of them to do that. We ended up spending a couple days on that spot and hanging out with this family. It was very fun and a good way to meet these people who were also traveling and relaxing at the lake. After relaxing a little bit at this big lake, we moved on to probably the second biggest attraction or tourist attraction in Kyrgyzstan. This one's for those who want to do a little bit more hiking. We were going to go see Isykul, or Ala Lake, which is high up in the mountains. We enjoyed the mountains quite a lot because there were almost no other people there. We were nearly alone. Sometimes you would see some groups of horses or cows, and maybe a few nomads, but not very often. They were typically down in the valleys. But when you walked past them, they were happy to talk, give us some yogurt, or just tell us which way we should go. They were all very kind and very welcoming. One of the most scary parts was when we had to wade across a river. To wade means to walk across a river, because there were no bridges there. I started to go slowly, and it seemed to be only up to my knees. But as I kept going, it kept getting higher and higher until it was at my waist. After that, I realized that my partners could not make it across, and so we had to find a different way. But I was on one side of the river, and they were on the other. But we found some local nomads who had some horses, and they were able to help us. On our last few days, we climbed up and over a pass, or a mountain pass called Panorama, which was super beautiful, but it ended up being a little bit dangerous. If I would have known that it was this dangerous, I probably wouldn't have gone. But the locals said it was fine, so I believed them. But when we got down and finally saw Isykul, the most important lake in our trek, we were stuck on one side. We thought that we could connect and walk around, but the only way to do that was to jump across a small rock. And if you fell, well, you would fall into a waterfall, and that was something I was not going to do. I did not want to be that risky. So we asked some of the locals, and they said the only way was to jump across that rock, but I still didn't want to do it. So we tried some exploration and went down a little bit and finally found a place where we could wade across the river. It was still difficult to wade, but we were able to do it and get to the other side. From there, it was easy to descend back to the city and return. From there, we got washed up, cleaned up, did some laundry, and rested for a day. But we continued our trip. We had to finish our Central Asian adventure by the end of the summer. So next stop was Kazakhstan, and we were headed there soon. If you learned something new, feel free to press like and subscribe, and let me know, have you ever been to Kyrgyzstan? Are you from Kyrgyzstan? Let me know down in the comments. I'll be happy to hear it from you. As always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Toodles.